doing Studienkolleg in my perspective is the best thing that you can do, because if you have to do engineering, you have to do T course, which is a technical course. There is also a W course, which is the Wirtschaft, like economics parts, and also G course, which is the Geschichte, which is the history, civics, all these things.
You did a lot of background research, which is very important.
Yeah.
Did you get some help from your friends, family in doing background research, or did you do all on your own using internet?
I think doing your own research is, I think, the best, because you know for yourself what is best for you. Also, internet, I think, is the best friend, I would say, in that sense. YouTube, you have got a lot of content. University websites, they are very informative, they are very accurate.
Do you have some information about should one prefer Hochschule or university?
If you plan to study like PhD or masters, university is a good option. If you are somebody who is looking for a job or is more into practical knowledge, gaining more of these things, then Hochschule would be much more preferred.
If you have to go back in time and make a decision again whether you want to come to Germany for your bachelor studies or not, would you change this decision and do your bachelor's from India, or would you still come to Germany? Hello. Welcome to yet another episode of the Kamat Talks. Today we have someone special with us. Most of us, when we come to Germany, we come for master studies. However, there are very few students who take the challenge to come to Germany for their bachelor studies, which is really an achievement in itself, because it's really difficult to come to a new country, set up their life, and at such a young age. It's very important to pass on the information on how to come to Germany for bachelor studies. And in today's episode, we have a special guest, Karthik Bhat, who came to Germany a few years before for his bachelor studies. And in this episode, let us try to get more insights from him about how he came to Germany for his bachelor studies, what are the challenges, what one needs to know, and what is his experience in the past few years in Germany. Hi, Karthik. How are you doing?
Hi, Kiran. I'm fine. How are you?
I am doing good. Welcome to this podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting. It's an honor.
You have been in Germany now for around 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
What was the first point of time in your life that you decided that you want to pursue bachelor's in Germany?
Yeah. So I was in 11th standard back then, and a very good friend of mine was studying in Darmstadt back then. He was doing bachelor's, and I was just talking to him once, and also to his father, and he was like, "Oh, he's in Germany studying bachelor's." And the idea of studying abroad and doing bachelor's, I find it quite interesting. And then I just started to research randomly, like what does one need to know, or what does one need to do in order to do or pursue bachelor's in Germany. So I got to know that learning German language is a very important thing if you want to survive in Germany or study in Germany. So in 11th standard, I started learning German in Goethe Institute back in Pune. So my college was like 11th, 12th, my college was really chill, I would say. Like attendance was not a big thing. So what I used to do is I used to study German, learn German for the whole day, and then I only had to go to college for practicals. So I did like B2 till B2. I did it in Pune itself in Goethe Institute. And after 12th, I decided that okay, I'll give it a shot, and then yeah, I'm here, and it's been nice.
Yeah, that's really great that you saw someone who was already doing their bachelor's in Germany, and then you decided that you also want to be there someday, and you are here. But going back to those times, did you also think of some other countries that you probably want to do bachelor's from, or why was it exactly Germany? Of course, you would have also researched some other countries as well.
Yeah, I did.
Could you take us through your thought process during that time?
So basically, I always wanted to do engineering as a thing, and Germany is one of the best countries for engineering or mechanical engineering in general. And also the thing that was very attractive for me was the tuition fees is like it's free here in Germany if
Mm-hmm.
you study in the public universities, honestly. And all other countries are like you have to pay a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the thing. But the only catch is like you have to know German.
Mm-hmm.
Other countries like US, UK, it's fine. English is like fine,
Mm-hmm.
but still for them also you have to write certain exams like TOEFL and all these things. So I thought it would be very good challenge for me to learn German and study in German.
Mm-hmm.
And also the money factor was a really good thing for me. That's why I did research on other countries, but at the end I thought Germany would be the perfect option for me.
Okay, so
Yeah,
basically it was a decision that was mainly driven
yeah,
based on the financial aspects.
yeah. And also learning a language which is like a new and which is like
Mm-hmm.
a different one
Mm-hmm.
was also very attractive, I would say, and
Mm-hmm.
also challenging. That's why I was like, and I didn't want to be the guy who lives in a country but doesn't speak the language, and people are like, okay, I have to do certain things because Germany, like, they understand English, but they won't like tolerate at
Mm-hmm.
like this thing in German, in
Mm-hmm.
English, sorry. So if you speak German, they'll help you a lot, and they'll be very nice to you and all these things. But in English, it's like they'll help you, but not like it's like they'll keep a
Mm-hmm.
distance, I would say. So I wanted like to have a free conversation with other people, with friends, all
Mm-hmm.
the people. That's why I thought it was like it is a good challenge and I could do it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not that tough. And then I also had a lot of time, as I said, in college back then. The attendance issue was not there.
Mm-hmm.
I used to just sit around and do nothing. That's why I was like, okay, let's learn a language at least, and something good would happen. So that was the case.
If I remember
Hmm.
right, at the age of 17, when you
Yeah,
are
yeah,
pursuing your 11th
yeah,
standard,
yeah, yeah.
usually you
Mhm.
always study for JEE
Yeah,
or
yeah,
some
yeah,
sort of competitive
yeah,
examination.
yeah, yeah.
Did you also prepare for this, or were you sure in your 11 that
Hmm.
you want to pursue your bachelor's from a,
Hmm.
foreign country?
Yeah. So when I was back in 10th,
Mhm.
I had this thing to do JE advanced and mains and all these things.
Mhm.
So I did start my coaching classes
Mhm.
and all these things in 10th standard itself.
Mhm.
But later I thought, okay, it's like to get into IITs is firstly very tough,
Mhm.
and secondly, even if you get into those, you have to be like the best of the best, like top 1%
Correct.
to get a really good package, or
Mhm.
like to really make an impact in that sense.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, even if I'm working really really hard, it is still going to be much harder to get a good life,
Mhm.
or something in that sense. And I found the Germany option much more suitable for me,
Mhm.
and also much more easier, I would say. But learning the language was the harder part. But
Mhm.
I would say, yeah, like I did go for JE. But the thing is, the JE preparation did help me to 12th standard board examination,
Mhm.
which was quite important for me at that back then. And yeah, the coaching classes were okay. After a point, I was like, I think 12th standard I didn't go to JE
Mhm.
coaching class. I did only for 1.5 year, I guess, because after I completed my B2, I was pretty sure that I would go to Germany for my bachelor's.
Okay. For
Yeah,
all the audience who are watching this, B2 means a level of German proficiency, which
yeah,
is more or less to native.
yeah,
Of
yeah,
course, C1 is the native
yeah, yeah.
German proficiency.
Uh-huh.
You made a very good point and
Hmm.
a valid point about the path that you have taken might
Hmm.
be slightly easier
Yeah,
than studying for JEE
yeah,
and
yeah.
trying to make it to the top elite
Hmm.
colleges in India.
Hmm.
I also think that coming to a foreign country where
Hmm.
there is less competition
Yeah,
gives you a edge and
yeah.
better life easily
Hmm.
than struggling to do something similar in India.
Yes.
Do you still agree on it, or do
Um.
you have a different perspective now that you have been in Germany and you say there are different challenges here
Hmm.
and maybe similar challenges as in
Hmm.
India?
I yes, I do agree on it because I think life is much easier here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also you get to learn a lot about life in general because you have to cook yourself,
Mm-hmm.
do all the things like banking, insurance, everything you have to do it on your own. And in India, it's like taken care of, like hostel meals or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think life is much easier here, but also you have to be very responsible enough.
Mm-hmm.
because at that age, 17, 18, you're not quite responsible, and money is a big factor. You have to also be responsible in sense of money, how to spend money.
Mhm.
You get to learn all these things, which I think is a very crucial part in our life,
Mhm.
and I think it is very important.
Your advice or your take would be that students who think that
Mhm.
it's difficult to
Mhm.
get into the top elite college can try this path and
Yes, I
come.
mean, I think that would be a better option because not everybody gets into JEs, right? Because everybody does want to get into JEE, but a very few people get into it. And the people who don't get into IITs and JEs, they might think they are not good enough,
Mhm.
which they still are. But I think this option would be a good option for them, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So during your 11th, you started to learn German
Mhm.
and you were sure that you want to come to Germany for your bachelor's. Until what level did you learn
Mhm.
German language and then come?
Okay, so when I was in 12th, like in
Mhm.
B2 level, I was just checking out what is the requirement for the universities because um, certain universities have certain requirements.
Okay.
Most
Mhm.
of them have like B1, most of them also have B2. It depends on what student college or university you have to go in, and on the website is clearly written on every university website
Mhm.
if they want like B1 or B2 or whatever.
Mhm.
So after I completed my B2, I was like, okay, now this must be enough for most of the universities, even though there were some universities which required C1.
Mhm.
But then I was like, okay, most of the universities, like 80 to 90% universities do require B1 or B2. And I already had B2 by then. So I was like, that should be enough. Also, the university websites are
Mhm.
really helpful in that
Mhm.
sense because they'll inform you in every way for international students if your degree or your 11th 12th is recognized or
Mhm.
not, or what else documents that you have to submit or prove that you are
Mhm.
who you are, and all these things, which I find very informative, I guess.
Now that you mentioned that German language is a
Hmm.
requirement, of
Hmm.
course, you studied it.
Hmm.
You did a lot of background research, which is very important.
Yeah.
Did you get some help
Hmm.
from your friends, family in doing background research, or
Hmm.
did you do all on your own
Uh-huh.
using internet?
I think doing your own research is, I think, the best
Mhm.
because you know for yourself what is best for you,
Mhm.
right? Because people doing engineering courses like mechanical, there are some universities which are good for mechanical, some are not that good. But those universities which are not good for mechanical might be better or good for some other things.
Correct.
So
Mhm.
you have to decide for your own self what you want to do, what
Mhm.
you want to pursue, and accordingly you will prepare. But more or less, B2 is the level of German that most of the students need. There are some additional things that also come with the language these things, which might be some other documents or some
Okay.
specific documents regarding if you want to do some mechanical engineering or some medical stuff.
Mhm.
Then for medical it might be something different, but German level is more or over the same. Also, internet, I think, is the best friend, I would say, in that sense. YouTube, you have got a lot of content. University websites, they are very informative, they are very accurate. Also, what you could also do is university website also have their email addresses, so you can directly ask them, okay, I'm planning to come to Germany, what else do I have to need, what are the documents that I need, or when should I apply, all these things. When is the intake, summer
Mhm.
intake, winter intake, there are two different things. So I think they inform you very well. Also, there is this organization called as DAAD,
Mhm.
which is they also have a website and they are also very informative. They'll also have these links to
Mhm.
different universities and qualification and requirements. That is, I think, very good.
So basically, if you do the research on your own, then it
Hmm.
is really helpful
Yeah,
to find what exactly do you want
yeah,
rather than relying on someone else.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you could of course get help from some people.
Mhm.
Like, okay, you could get to know the perspective of other
Mhm.
people's. Okay, from experience and all these
Mhm.
things. Okay, he did this thing, so I could also do it. Or if I want something else, then I will do research on something else.
Mhm.
So I think it's a good thing to do research on your own self.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that we know a little bit of your background, how
Uh-huh.
did the idea come up, and
Uh-huh.
here you are today.
Yeah.
Maybe it's very important also to know what was the application process
Mm-hmm.
because from what I know in
Mm-hmm.
India, we study only for 12 years.
Yeah.
However, in Germany, if you
Mhm.
want to do your bachelor studies,
Mhm.
then you have to have a 13 years of
Yeah.
schooling.
Exactly.
What are the different methods through which a foreign student or an Indian student can come to Germany for bachelor studies?
Okay, I'll firstly tell my way that
Mm.
I did to come here. There is something called a Studienkolleg which I did, which is basically the 13 standard
Mhm.
per se. So I did my 12th in India, and after that I came here. As you said, 13 years of schooling is the German education system. In India, we have 12 or sometimes also 13, depending upon what you do. So for me to do university here, I had to do Studienkolleg because I thought it was very good option for me. I
Mhm.
had some other options too, but I thought doing Studienkolleg was the best option for me because you learn German, and also you learn German like if you're doing engineering, like T course, I would say. Um, they teach physics, chemistry, maths, all these things, but they teach these everything's in German. That's why I think in German, learning these concepts, all these things was a different experience for me. Also, the other way is like if you have cracked JEE Mains or JEE
Mhm.
Advanced in India, you could come directly to university. You don't have to do student college the 13th year. The third way would be if you have done schooling in IB board or the Cambridge board.
Mhm.
A friend of mine did that, so I know a little bit about it. So if you have done Cambridge board, you don't have to do student college. You could directly start with your
Mhm.
bachelor's in Germany. Also, the thing is, after 10th, you could do diploma in India.
Mhm.
Like diploma is for 3 years, and then again you reach like 13 years of schooling in India, and then you could directly apply
Mhm.
in German universities. Also, you could after 12th you could study 1 year in India engineering, and then transfer your credits to German university. That is also possible, but again, I think that way is not how should I say, that way is not uh, advisable, I would say, because transferring credits is a big thing actually. Depending upon what you have done in India, if they have same things in
Mhm.
Germany, then only your credits would be transferred.
Okay.
So that's a big thing. But I would say doing student college in my perspective is the best thing that you can do,
Mhm.
because if when you start your university in Germany
Mhm.
or bachelor's in Germany, it's everything would be in German.
Mhm.
And after doing your 12th or anything, once you come to Germany and start your education in German,
Mhm.
I think it's a very big shock, I would say. For
Mhm.
a lot of my friends, it was. But if you do the student college, it would be helpful because it would teach you like it's like a school
Mhm.
wherein they teach you everything in German,
Mhm.
so you get more comfortable with the language and also the process,
Mhm.
which I found it was very interesting and very helpful.
Okay,
Yeah.
so basically, Studienkolleg is a
Hmm.
place where you get to learn
Hmm.
same things that you have probably learned in India,
Yeah.
again a year in
Hmm.
German
Hmm.
language,
Hmm.
and also you get up to a mark where you build your confidence in the technical subjects, and you are up to a level where the German students are as well.
Yes, I would say it's in because in student college there are not only engineering
Mm-hmm.
but there are also medical
Mm-hmm.
courses, which is the M course.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to do engineering, you have to do T course, which is a technical course.
Mm-hmm.
There is also W course, W course, which is the Wirtschaft, like economics
Economics.
parts, and also G course, which is the Geschichte, which is the history, civics, all
Okay.
these things. Mostly people in India apply for engineering
Mm.
or medical, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, M or T is the
Okay.
main thing. So yeah,
Okay. So there are multiple
yeah,
possibilities. Of
yeah,
course, if even if someone has started their
hmm,
engineering, they still can say, okay, I can
yeah,
come
yeah,
to Germany for my bachelor's.
exactly.
That's really great to know,
Hmm.
because a lot of people in different parts of the world do not
Hmm.
know that there exists a way to do
Yeah.
bachelor's
Hmm.
in Germany,
Hmm.
and it's very nice to know the multiple ways through
Hmm.
which one can come.
Yeah.
Now let's get back to a point
Hmm.
where you arrived to Germany.
Hmm.
You learned German, you
Hmm.
came here.
Uh-huh.
Was it really hard settling in the first few months?
Hmm.
or was it according to your expectations? What kind of preparations did you do? Did you have some friends helping you out, or how did you find help in the initial first few months?
So I did have some friends, as I said earlier. I used to stay with them because I at that time I didn't knew what student colleague I would be going to, because going to a student colleague is also a big thing because you have to write the entrance exam, and different student colleagues have different entrance examination, but most of them have German and math exams. The places are very less, the students are a lot of the students are more and the places are less, so you have to be very sharp in those sense. And I did apply in India itself for a lot of entrance exams in student colleagues, and I used to travel to a lot of cities to write these exams. And after every exam I would get the result if I would have cleared the exam or not, and then only I would be allotted to the student colleague. So first 2 or 3 months was just traveling to other cities, preparing for the exam and writing the exams and waiting for the results. But for the students who are applying to student colleague, I would suggest to apply to more and more student colleagues, because if you apply, let's say, 3 or 4 student colleagues and you write the exam for 3 or 4, but if you don't get any if you don't pass the exam or you don't get accepted, you'll have to wait 6 months, uh, and you'll have to apply again in the next semester.
Okay.
That's a very big thing, because a friend of mine, he wanted to go to the top student colleagues. He only applied to 4 or 5 universities for 5 student colleagues, and he wrote all the exams, but he couldn't clear any of it, and then he had to wait 6 months more to apply again.
Wow.
So I would say I would um, I would suggest students to apply to student colleagues in more number, I would say, because once you clear multiple exams, then you have the option to choose which one to go. Because in my case, I applied like 10 or 12 student colleagues, and I wrote 8 entrance examination, and I cleared 3 or 4 of them. So at the end, I had the option to choose which city to choose, where to study, and all these things, which is, I think, a very good thing, because then you can not only judge the student colleague, but also the city and where you want to live, and you could travel to the city and check for yourself how the resources are, how the university is, and all these things, and then you could check for yourself, I would say.
Okay, maybe let's go a little bit back in time so that the timeline is right. So once you decide that you want to pursue bachelor's from Germany, what is the first step? Do you have to look for a college and a technical course that you want to study and then apply for a student college, or how exactly is the timeline?
Okay, I would say it is dependent on the person, because most of them, like, let's say in my case, I did 12th. Most of them are doing diploma. Some of them have already started the university. Some of them are preparing for JE. Some of them are from Cambridge board. So for everybody, it's a different thing.
What exactly was for you?
For me, I did 12th. That's why I could have started my university in India itself for 1 year, and then I could have started in Germany. But I thought student colleague was the best for me, because I thought if I do engineering in India for 1 year, transferring credits would be a thing, and also in India I would be learning everything in English.
Correct.
And once I start my second year in a German university, it would be like a very big shock for me, because okay, I know the things, I know the stuff, everything in German, in English in India, because I've learned it in India. But once I start my education in Germany, that too directly from first year to second year, it would be a big shock, because I thought I wouldn't be able to cope up with things uh, with the language perspective. That's why I thought student colleague would be a good level for me, like a good school in some sense for me, to learn a little bit more about the language, and also about the subjects that they are teaching in student college.
So did you get the visa based on admission to one of the universities, or do you get visa based on your student colleague admissions?
So student colleague, you have to apply to multiple student colleagues and exams. So what the Studienkolleg does is they'll invite you for the exam. They'll give you a letter saying, okay, this person has to write an exam on this day, and based on that, you submit these documents to your visa officer, and then they'll say, okay, this guy has to write an exam in this city on this day. I'll give him a visa, something like that. Yeah.
So your initial visa itself is not dependent on your university, but it is dependent on that
Studienkolleg. Yeah, the entrance exam basically.
Oh, okay.
That's the thing.
And how long do you get this visa? Do you get it for 6 months, 3 months, a year?
Back then, when I got it for 3 months. And the thing is, once you write the exam, you'll get the result, and after you get the result, you'll apply to the Studienkolleg. Okay, then you will say, okay, I'll study here for 1 year, and then they'll give you an immatriculation certificate, and based on that immatriculation certificate, you'll get visa for like a year or two.
Okay, so before coming to Germany, you never had an admission to any of the universities?
That's what I said. The friend of mine who applied to only 4 universities, he had this option to come back and or to stay. So what he did was he stayed, and then he learned the language in Germany, and learning a language was the reason of stay, and then he got a visa through it. But there were people who had to come back again to India because they couldn't clear the exam because they don't have the visa. That's the thing.
Because I also heard that there is a possibility that you get a conditional admit in university, and then you come here and do a Studienkolleg. And in that case, is it true that they get a visa based on their conditional admit, or
they do get visa on conditional basis also, but then again they'll have this thing that, okay, you have to complete Studienkolleg and then you would be admitted to the university.
Okay,
that is also a thing.
Yeah. So it's very clear that you came here based on your Studienkolleg requirements, and then cleared the exam, you got your visa, continued it, and then when was the point that you decided, okay, I want to go to this university? Again, of course, you have to apply for different universities, right? So at what point did you decide which university, which course? Can you take us through a little bit of your thought?
Sure. So Studienkolleg, as I said, is for 1 year, and at the end of this 1 year, we have to write an exam called as Feststellungsprüfung, which is the FSP. This is basically the final exam of the Studienkolleg. This is also the entrance exam for other universities. Like it's like the score on these on the exam does matter, because this score would then be considered to your university qualification.
Basically, this is like JE of German.
Yeah, you could say it like in that sense.
Or some entrance exam.
Yeah, some entrance exam. This is also the final exam of the Studienkolleg, but also the entrance exam for other universities.
Okay.
So once you write the final exam, you get a grade, and based on that grade, you have to apply to other universities. Okay, you say, okay, my 12th grade is this thing, and my FSP or the Feststellungsprüfung is this grade, and then they'll take the average of both, and then you'll apply to the universities. Also the thing is, in universities website there is written, okay, last year the cutoff was this grade, and then you will have your grade based on your 12th and FSP, and then you could decide for yourself, okay, is my grade good enough to get into the universities or not. And then depending on those factors, then you could apply to the universities and then wait for university to reply, and then you might get into it, you might be in the waiting list, or you might not get it. So that's the thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is when you decided which university you want to go, and then okay. Now that we are speaking about getting into universities or applying for universities, do you have some information about should one prefer Hochschule or university? This is also an important decision in many students' lives, and it's not very clear like what Hochschule offers and what university offers for most of the foreign students. Do you have some insights on this?
Yeah, sure. So I was also not very clear on these things, because I was also very new at that time, and I didn't knew the difference between a Hochschule and a university. So basically, if you plan to study like PhD or masters, university is a good option. If you are somebody who is looking for a job or is more into practical knowledge, gaining more of these things, then Hochschule would be much more preferred, I would say. University is much more theoretical in that
Mhm.
sense, and Hochschule is much more practical. I'm studying currently computer science, and I'll give an example of it. Of people who are studying in universities, they are much more theoretical computer science. They're studying these things, and in Hochschule they are doing much more programming and much more practical, basically things. And student colleagues are also a little bit different. There
Mhm.
are certain university student colleagues, and there are some Hochschule student colleagues.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
if you are studying in a university student college, you can apply to you can apply to universities and also to Hochschules.
Mhm.
But if you are studying in a Hochschule student college, you can only apply to Hochschule. That is the main thing that you have to
Definitely.
know.
Mhm.
For example, Kiel Hochschule is there.
Mhm.
If you are studying in Hochschule Kiel Student College, then you can only apply to Hochschules, like different Hochschules,
Understood. Mhm.
but not universities.
Wow. Mhm.
So that way, in that sense, you have to very know what student college you want to go, because if you want to achieve or if you want to do PhD or masters, then you have to be sure that you have to get into the university student college and not Hochschule student college. That is the
Mhm.
main thing. Also, in universities, you have to be very much more attentive in that sense, because they have more exams.
Mhm.
These things, and in Hochschule there is more group projects and
Mhm.
practicals and all these things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this
Hmm.
is one of the aspect which one needs to know, or
Hmm.
else you
Yeah.
mess up your structure.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you, for example, do
Hmm.
a Studienkolleg in Hochschule, then
Hmm.
you cannot apply for a university.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you would waste a lot of time in
Yeah. Hmm.
figuring out things. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's very nice to know that
Hmm.
what is the difference,
Hmm.
and which one should one choose based
Hmm.
on their preference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I myself learnt a lot of things on how to come to Germany for
Hmm.
bachelor studies,
Hmm.
and I am sure there are a lot of students
Hmm.
who would be inspired and
Hmm.
also see that
Hmm.
what is the way to
Yeah.
come to Germany.
Hmm.
Before we end this podcast,
Hmm.
I have a few questions which are
Hmm.
not related to the application process,
Hmm.
or how exactly did you plan, what
Hmm.
are the things that you thought of,
Hmm.
but on a lighter note, when you come to Germany at a
Hmm.
such young age,
Hmm.
were there some challenges that you faced which
Hmm.
you might not have thought of?
Um, there were a lot of challenges, I would say, because I was still a kid back then, and staying away from parents, it was very difficult in the start, because I had to cook for myself and wash my clothes, wash utensils. You have to do everything on yourself, which was very hard on me, I would say. That was, I think, the biggest challenge. Cooking was the biggest challenge for me, I would say, because I didn't learn in
Mhm.
India back then how to cook, and after I came here, I had no other options. That's why
Mhm.
I had to learn how to cook, and I still cannot cook a lot, but it's manageable, I would say.
Mhm.
And studying besides and doing all these things was, I think, the most difficult part, because you not only have to study, but also you have to cook and do all the things, plan all these things
Mhm.
ahead and doing these things. Yeah.
If you have a chance to speak about one or two
Hmm.
cultural shocks that you faced in
Hmm.
the first year or so,
Hmm.
do you remember one or two of those?
Um, I do remember this thing that happened with me, because when I came to Germany, I was very new. I didn't know anything, and I did start talking in English because my German was not that good.
Mhm.
Uh, and people who are a little bit old, they are like, they won't tolerate English
Mhm.
that much, because firstly they don't speak English that well, because they are a bit old, and also, even if I talked in German with them. I tried talking in German with them, and they understood somehow. They
Mhm.
didn't understood. I didn't knew, but he got mad at me, and I thought, okay, I didn't knew what to do, and I just left. So
Okay.
I didn't knew what to do. So I was like, there are multiple things, I would say, but yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. So this is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
weird experience, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
It's not that every day you find someone who gets mad at you for just.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I think also from their perspective, if
Mhm.
they do not understand what you are speaking,
Yeah,
then it gets slightly
yeah,
tricky.
tricky.
But more or less, I would say to the audience that,
Mhm,
yeah, in different parts of Germany, it's slightly different, and
mhm.
people of our age usually speak fluent English, and
Yeah.
it's very easy to
Mhm,
deal with.
mhm,
Yeah, thank you very much for this very informative session.
mhm,
Before we end this session, there is one last question
mhm,
that is in my mind.
mhm,
If you have to go back in time
mhm,
and make a decision again
mhm,
whether you want to come to Germany for your bachelor studies or not,
mhm.
would you change this decision and do your bachelor's from India, or would you still come to Germany?
Um, I think I would still come to Germany because like getting a new experience was, I think, very important for me at that time. And I did get a new, an exciting experience. And staying in India would have been good, but I think coming to Germany was one of the best decisions of my life, I would say. I got to explore a lot
Hmm?
of things. Here, I traveled a lot of cities. Here, also, I made a lot of friends. Yeah,
Yeah, that's really great that it worked out pretty well as
yeah.
you thought.
Hmm.
And I also appreciate that you did a lot of research
Hmm.
on your own at a
Hmm.
such young age and took the decision to come to Germany, which is
Hmm.
not really easy at
Hmm.
that age.
Yeah.
I know how it was for me when I
Hmm.
wanted to come to masters.
Hmm.
It was a hard decision.
Hmm.
Still, you know that you will be away from your family, away from the surroundings that you are well aware of,
Hmm.
know of.
Hmm.
And I really respect all the students
Hmm.
who come to Germany for their bachelor
Hmm.
studies. Um, yeah, thank you once again for coming on the podcast and
Hmm.
sharing your experiences.
Hmm.
I am sure that there are a lot of students who would watch this video and also get motivated and
Hmm.
also now exactly know
Hmm.
how to get into Germany for their bachelor studies
Hmm.
and what Germany would provide you once you are
Yeah.
here.
Hmm.
Um, the lot of positives that you
Hmm.
shared of Germany is really something that students would be
Hmm.
happy to know about,
Hmm.
and it would also make a lot of viewers or the students who want to come to Germany
Hmm.
very comfortable,
Yeah.
knowing that at the end of the day
Hmm.
you have people here who can help you.
Yeah.
Also, it's not all difficult. At the
Yeah.
end of the tunnel there is light. So thank you for joining in,
Hmm.
and yeah, we see each other sometime again.
Yeah. Thank you so much for inviting, and I hope the interview or the podcast was very informative, and I hope it helps somebody. Yeah.
So if you like this content, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, press the bell icon for the notifications. Until next time, see you. Bye bye.